As one of the countries responsible for the support of Islamic extremists to fight against the former Soviet Union in 1980s, Britain has a special responsibility to stabilize the situation in Pakistan. Do you think that the Labour government is doing enough in this regard?
Well, we are the second largest country in relation to the numbers of NATO troops in Afghanistan. I understand the history of the Mujahideen. It's interesting you talk about a special relationship with the UK. As I understand it from history, it was the USA, not the UK. It was the USA, as you know, who were working with Pakistan, with President Zia-ul-Haq as he was then. But it's interesting you refer to UK. Look, we understand that Pakistan and Afghanistan and that region, the geopolitical region, is fragile. We understand that Pakistan needs our support, as does Afghanistan. When I was in Karachi recently, I saw evidence of the refugees who had fled from Afghanistan and were now in Karachi and in Pakistan. And we need to do whatever we can to help Pakistan. You know, the idea that the sole responsibility for this falls on the UK is just not realistic, though, is it? Because it's not simply the UK that has a role to play. It's Pakistan, it's the international community, and it's Afghanistan as well that needs to stand on her own 2 feet and be responsible for her own destiny as well.
People are asking that who will advocate the Muslims, especially the Pakistanis, if Muslim MPs remain quiet on the issues of 42 days detention and on a bungled operation pathway where 10 Pakistani students are still in category A in the prison without a phone call facility?
Well, you've asked 17 questions in one question. Let me try and do with all 17 if I can. The 12 people you refer to were arrested because the police had reasonable suspicion that they'd committed a criminal offence. Because in this country we have due process, after a period of 14 days, they were released from the police station and not charged. It's a process of open justice that we have. And what's happened is 10 of the 12 are people who came here on visas, and 10 of the 12 are liable to be deported by the immigration authorities. And that is a decision for the immigration authorities to take. Just like Pakistan is responsible for who enters Pakistan, Pakistan is responsible for who they want to kick out of Pakistan. Similarly, the immigration authorities here can decide who remains in the UK, who comes to the UK and who is deported. And the reason why those 10, the Home Secretary has referred to be deported is because the Home Secretary has made a decision that their presence in the UK is not conducive to national security. Now it's for the courts, and there is in this country a process of a special immigration appeal tribunal who will look at the evidence, and SIAC, as you referred to the commission, SIAC will look at the evidence and decide whether these people can stay in the UK or not. They're not British citizens, they're not British nationals, they are Pakistani citizens, and it's for us to decide via SIAC whether they can stay. You raise a separate point about the issue of who stands up for Muslim rights. Well, British citizens use various tools at their disposal to stand up for their rights, and those British citizens, some of them are of Muslim faith. For example, they can lobby Parliament. We saw recently them lobbying Parliament in relation to, you referred to the 42 days in counter-terror legislation. In fact, it was non-Muslims who made more noise and made more protest and were more effective at lobbying than many of the Muslims you referred to. You referred to, for example, other issues about Muslim cause. Look, we have doubled the amount of aid given to the developing world. Who benefits in the developing world? Mainly Muslims. You talk about who argues for the Muslims. Well, we've increased the investment in public services, increased the money the NHS gets, that council housing gets, that school gets. More than a third of British Muslims are below the age of 16. So who benefits from increased investment in education? It's Muslims that benefit. And one of the key challenges any minority community has is to make the issues that are important to the minority community into a mainstream issue, so that you have people lobbying for change. And what you'll see over a period of time is more and more British citizens of Muslim faith being comfortable with the multiple identities they have and being able to effectively lobby. And I go back to the basic point I made at the beginning. The responsibility for effectively representing those British citizens of Muslim faith shouldn't simply rest on MPs of a certain faith. They should represent and fall on everyone of whatever faith. So, for example, I would like to see MPs of Jewish faith, MPs of Christian faith, MPs of Hindu faith, MPs of Sikh faith, MPs of Muslim faith, MPs without any faith standing up and representing the rights of Muslims and non-Muslims, just like I would like to see MPs of all those faiths standing up for and representing the rights of non-Muslims as well.
Some surveys shows the support for the Labour amongst the voters of Pakistani origin is at its lowest since the last election.
Which surveys are they?
I've seen a lot of surveys in the different newspapers, Independent, Guardian. I've seen the surveys. What is the single most reason for the erosion of its support?
Well, surveys will also tell you that the Labour Party currently is not very popular in the country, so it's hardly surprising that if the opinion polls are showing the Labour Party with popularity between 26 and 30%, then it's not unreasonable to follow on that it's hardly surprising that Muslims are no different, will also be unhappy with the government. And we have challenge. We're 12 years into this administration. We are a year away from a general election. We're making difficult decisions. We're in the middle of a recession, the most difficult recession we've faced since the 30s. And British Muslims are no different to British Christians or British Hindus. They want to have prosperity. They want to have security in their job. They want to have increased investment in public services. They want to ensure there's value for money. And so the way we're going to win back additional support from British citizens of Muslim faith is the way we win back support from others as well. That's to make sure we project our policies better. That's to make sure that we can explain what we're doing. We can explain to the British public of Muslim faith and non-Muslim faith what our values are. Our values mean that we continue to invest and help the developing world. Our values mean we continue to invest in the public services. Our values mean that we don't discriminate against somebody based on their faith or their race. Our values mean that we continue to make sure that we redistribute prosperity where we can. And our values mean that at a difficult time, at a recession, we help those who need our help the most. And many of those people who will be unemployed, who will be doing less well in education, who will not be able to get the apprenticeships, who will not be able to get the jobs that they're qualified to do, may well be British citizens of Muslim faith. And history will tell you that the party and the government that's looked after them the most is the Labour government.
I will come again on the issues of the students detained in the British jail. Prime Minister Gordon Brown still defends the deportation of Pakistani students, as no proof has been found so far that they are a potential threat to Britain's national security. What has been your role since the arrest of these innocent students?
Well, in this country we have something called due process. It's not politicians in this country who decide whether somebody is released from a court. It's the judge who decides. And what you'll see is that the evidence that the Home Secretary has given, I've not seen the evidence from the Home Secretary, it's confidential information. The Home Secretary has given evidence to the immigration authorities, and the immigration authorities are taking this now up with the SIAC. You'll be aware, similarly, that if a British politician told a Pakistani court or a politician to release somebody, Pakistani politicians would say, hold on a sec, we have our policies.
Because I've got one example that one of the British citizen, he was just on the gallows and they took it away from the gallows even because he was in Pakistan, he was in the central jail in Gujranwala. And I have seen that because...
Well, I hope you're not suggesting that these 10 men are going to be hanged in this country. No, I think you've got to stop being silly and be serious. These 10 men are not being hanged, they're not being charged, they're not being tortured. They're 10 men who are facing a deportation back to Pakistan. I mean, be serious and be real, right? That's the first point. The second point is, at any stage they want, they can leave the UK and go back to Pakistan. Okay, so let's be realistic and look at the options here. Now, the Home Secretary has given this evidence. She believes there are issues around national security. I don't know, I've not seen the evidence. What I do know is that what is happening is that the SIAC tribunal, the commissioner, will look at this evidence and will decide whether people can stay here or not. And I know, because I've spoken to the Deputy High Commissioner, that he's had consular access to all the men. So he's been given the rights that the Vienna Convention gives to other governments. And I know also, that the Prime Minister of this country discusses with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So the politicians have discussed it. Now, look, we can make cheap points, but we can make points about what the Pakistani High Commissioner was doing over Easter. I don't want to criticise the Pakistani High Commissioner or the Deputy High Commissioner. What I will tell you is that we need to make sure that the processes we have in place are respected and abided by. We need to make sure these men get a fair say at the SIAC hearing, and they will do so.
Thank you very much, Sadiq Khan, today for talking with us.
My pleasure.